And good evening, everyone. ESS proudly presents the Wise Guys Sports Talk Show live here from our rooms. Uh, my guest, my co-host, excuse me, Joey Riom and Dave Bartlett. And tonight, we're going to discuss Pete Rose, um, the man, the myth, the legend. And there might be a lot of people out there that agree with us or don't agree with us. That's okay. Um, there's a lot of I'll tell you what, I've been talking to a couple people the last couple days, and up to camp today. I was up to camp in Indian Lake, and I talked to one fella, two guys actually out of our conservative group. Um, they didn't want him in there because they thought he was the dirtiest ball player that ever lived, and I kind of chuckled and said, "Who wasn't?" I mean, and they said, "Well, Derek Jeter, he made it through 20 some years in the Yankees. And if you can stay in the Yankees, and I was just putting my hands up in the air going, I can't believe we're even going to discuss this because at any point in time, folks, during a major league career, the cleats have come up somewhere on somebody who's trying to gouge somebody, who's stepped on their toes, who's thrown at somebody, who's charged the mound. There's a lot of things we could talk about as far as dirty players. So I'll start this out by saying Pete Rose belongs in the Hall of Fame. My reasoning is I have never seen a man hustle, and that was his nickname, Charlie Hustle, like this man did. Yes, he made a mistake as a manager, but the numbers don't lie. Over 14,000 at bats, over 4,200, actually 4,256 hits lifetime. Nobody will ever come close to that again, as far as I'm concerned. Home runs, he was not a big stick at the plate for home runs. He only hit 160 home runs. His batting average lifetime was 303. Okay, that has a lot to do with this too. His on base percentage was 375, blah, blah, blah. We could go through this on and on. But I think Pete made a mistake. I think he's done his time. I think it's time for him to be reinstated so he can be elected in the Hall of Fame. I'll let you guys speak on what you think now.
Go ahead, Dave.
I'm done.
Okay, I'm done.
I'm done.
I've stated my case. I'm done.
Yep.
Well, you say he made a mistake. Well, I don't think it was a mistake.
Well,
I think I knew exactly what he was doing.
Yeah.
He knew exactly what he was doing. Now, okay, so my stance on this whole thing, in the beginning, when he was banned from baseball, I'm like, yeah, he's got the numbers, and he was the greatest hitter of all time, but he broke the rules. You break the rules, you pay the price. Well, that's I felt that way for a long time. And then you've got the steroid era. Well, they broke the rules, and did they pay the price? The ones that got caught. I don't know. Did they pay the price? Well, then now you got this, the Houston Astros. The Houston Astros. It seems that the rules get broken more often and more often, and does the punishment fit the crime? So I've switched my stance. I think that Pete Rose has served his time. What he did was wrong, but there's a lot of people doing wrong things in sports, and so I agree. No one is ever going to make match the numbers that he has, and yeah, it's time for Pete Rose to be in the Hall of Fame. That's my stance.
Yeah, I want to. You know what I meant by mistake, though.
Yeah. No, I know.
Yeah,
I know.
But he committed. No, I understand. I just want to clarify that. When I say mistake, yeah, he made an oopsie. As far as I know, from everything I read, he didn't bet against his team, but
right.
But I can understand being in the dugout and saying, do I make this call to the pen and how much money do I have on this? I can see that the sway of the game that way. You know what I mean? But as a player, his numbers don't lie, Joey.
No. You're talking about a guy that really knows, can remember the 70s and 80s, especially in baseball and in the numbers. And, I immediately think back 1978. I was just a kid, 9-year-old kid, no cable TV. And our life was reading newspapers and, getting your sports from Sandy Cook in the morning or on the radio or your 6 o'clock news, not 24/7 the way it is now. And my father and I were captivated. That was the summer that Pete Rose had his 44-game hitting streak. And I remember driving into town to a friend's house of my dad's, the Demo family, who were huge baseball fans. They were playing the Mets just to see Pete Rose during this hitting streak. Baseball was different back then. That was life for people in the North Country, I thought, and especially in the summertime. It was baseball. His numbers, yeah. He's absolutely a Hall of Famer. You can't tell the story of baseball. That's always the way I look at it. You can't tell the story of baseball without Pete Rose, Joe Jackson. And I know this is going to piss some people off, sorry, but you can't tell the story of the game without Mark McGwire, Sammy Sosa, Barry Bonds, and Roger Clemens. They're Hall of Famers. And the thing that would help them all, just tell the truth.
Yeah.
And say you did it. Pete paid his dues. He paid his dues, but then still refused to admit it. I think if he had admitted it, we're all about second chances. I don't know a single person. I've had second chances. We've all had them. We deserve them. If he just would have admitted, and the one baseball player that comes to mind is Andy Pettitte.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I don't think he was a big-time steroid user. I didn't get that impression, but he did admit to it, and at least he admitted to it. And I don't think they don't frown upon him. Now, I don't think he's a Hall of Famer anyway, unfortunately, because he could be. But Roger Clemens, just come clean. Just say you did it. Barry Bonds. I mean, what do you think? We're dumb?
Yeah, right.
You went from 160 pounds to 250 in a head the size of a melon. Mm-hmm. But I know one thing. I was up every morning, Barry Bonds on the West Coast, up every morning before I would go to work, turn on SportsCenter to see if he hit one the previous night. So I was into it. I bought it. I knew they were on steroids. Just admit it. That's all. Just tell the truth. Like Rafael Palmeiro, he ruined himself. There's just no coming. He stuck his finger in our faces and said, "I never used steroids," when it's quite obvious that you did. So, Pete Rose deserves to be in the Hall of Fame. I don't think there's any doubt about that. And and now that I think he did confess to it, right? Didn't he?
A couple years ago, he actually, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's time.
In a quiet kind of way.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
He didn't say
He's 70.
Yeah. Basically, he said, "Yeah, I made a mistake."
He's 76, 77 years old. Let's put him in. Let's give him his due and let's put him in.
One thing I've always.
He'll actually be 70. He's actually 79 right now.
Is he that? Yeah.
April 14th, 1941, he was born. So he's 79 years old right now. So glad, Dave. I want to talk more on the Mark McGwire and Sosa thing, but I'll let you fly with what you got to have.
Yeah, no, I had a question. Tell me your thoughts or your feelings on, because this is one of the things about Pete Rose. It's always it's been a thing with me. 1970 All-Star game, Ray Fosse, taking him out at the plate. What's your feeling on that? I mean, you got Charlie Hustle, but it's an All-Star game.
It wasn't an All-Star game in 1970.
It was
Okay.
a
I
play to
don't.
win,
I
yeah.
don't think they did not play it back then the way they play it now. And
Okay.
I still think the baseball All-Star game is the best All-Star game of all the pro sports.
Hmm.
But back in 1970, holy yeah, they played it. The guys were playing nine innings. They weren't even. Some of the guys weren't even coming out of the game back in
Okay.
1970.
So it wasn't a showcase like you see now. You play a couple innings, you wave to the fans and that. So it meant something to the players then, is what you're saying.
I truly felt that way when I was growing up as a kid. I couldn't wait. I'm sure you two were the same way. I could not wait for the All-Star game. It was like, keep in mind, we grew up at a time where we were lucky to get the game of the week on Saturday.
True.
That was it. That was our baseball. So we couldn't wait for. Holy cow! You're showing me a baseball game on a Tuesday night. I'm all in on that. So I
Here's my
couldn't wait
feeling
for
on
the All-Star game.
Here's my feeling on the crash at home plate. We're all athletes at one time in our life. We all played pickup basketball.
We're still athletes right here.
Yeah. Oh, right here, we're great athletes right now. But years
Yeah.
ago, we could play 7 days a week, countless hours in the gym. Dave, you and I played I don't know how many games pickup ball at Sam River. I never once crossed a chalk line or crossed a foul line or a baseline or a sideline and said, I'm just playing for the hell of it. As soon as I crossed those lines, I was playing for blood and to win. So the way they played, like Joey said back then, they played to win. And if he had to knock Fosse's head off his shoulders, he was playing to win. He was playing to score. So that's the way I see it.
And keep in mind too, guys, back then, All-Star games and World Series, there was money on the line. Now that money is a pittance now for these guys. It doesn't. Back then, Pete Rose was probably number one. He probably needs the money to feed the gambling habit, but he's probably thinking, hey, I got a rookie that made this All-Star team that's making minimum wage here. Let's win this game. He could use this extra. And probably I'm going to guess 1970 winning team, probably I'm going to guess if they were lucky, they got $10,000 a piece for winning that game. I bet you it wasn't even that much. But if it was $5,000, that's a big amount of money back then for those guys. They weren't playing for $1 million contracts then. So money on the line, I want that extra. I want more than what the other team's getting.
Now, I want to bring up, like I said, something that's been haunting me for years about the McGuire Sosa thing. So I might as well bring him up in this chat. The major league used those guys. I still say that to this day. That's why they belong in the Hall. Major League Baseball knew those guys were taking some sort of steroids or some sort of powder form and shakes or whatever. But those two guys were filling the stands every night to watch those guys pound baseballs out of the park. And the Major League was making millions off of them. They knew what was going on, and they could have put a halt to it, but nope, they didn't. So I think that the Major League Baseball was complacent in what they were doing as well as the players. So for that, I feel that, they belong in the Hall. Clemens, he got a needle. Admit to it. You got a needle stuck in you. Admit it and you move forward. Everybody knows it. So I'm with you guys. I think people would be a lot less what's the word I'm looking for? I don't think they're willing to give second chances. I really do. And I just wish these guys would come clean. Yeah, Pete came clean a couple years ago, but I don't know. That's my feeling on the McGuire and Sosa thing. So I don't know how you guys feel about it.
Go ahead, Dave.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. It's not like one person did it. You know, when you're talking about this, you know, the steroid use and you know, the McGuire Sosa thing, you know, if it was just one person, just say everybody was clean except for Barry Bonds. And we knew that, you know, then it was found out that he was doing steroid. Well, then, yeah, he doesn't count. But either you get rid of all the records or you allow all the records. I don't know. I mean, I don't know. I guess I'm trying to find the right words of what I'm saying. You know what I'm saying, though, right? I mean,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Either let them all go or don't. And
Right. Yeah.
you know, I mean, if I
And again,
remember
the
correctly,
governing bodies,
sorry, David.
the governing bodies, you know, screwed up. If you want to look at it that way, you know, if as soon as they found out there was something going on, they should have put the hammer down right then. You can't tell me that stuff was going on for as long as it did without somebody knowing about it. So because they didn't, you know, come down hard right at the beginning, then you can't come down hard later.
And I always was amazed, Dave, when they had him in the the horse and pony show in front of Congress. I was surprised. That would have been the perfect spot for McGuire and Clemens to say, "You knew we were doing it, and you're dragging us in, and you're dragging us in here to make it look like you had no idea." That was the perfect spot for them to say, "Hey, yeah, we did it, and you freaking knew that we were doing it." And I agree with Pete. Baseball is totally knew what was going on, but because McGuire and Sosa were putting butts in the seats, and I remember that game was the night that Mark McGuire broke Roger Maris's record was a weeknight game, and Fox picked it up on a weeknight. That didn't happen back then. It still doesn't happen now. You don't put a game on unless it's a regularly scheduled game on a Saturday or whatever. You know, they put it on because there was a chance that he was going to break it that night. And I remember being at home watching it. I was captivated.
Most regular cable channels even cut to it when he came up to the bat. I remember that like it was yesterday. You know. Yep.
And I was into it. There's nothing. I don't think there's any record that's more sacred in all of sports than it's the home run. The home run is the most fascinating thing in sports. That I'll always say that. And I'm a basketball guy, but I wasn't a great baseball player. I played it for a little bit, but I love watching it. That's my favorite sport to watch. I just feel that there's more of this. There's more brain in that game than any game at all. And the home run was just something. You know, I was a big Reggie Jackson fan, and so I obviously
huge Reggie fan.
So I'm going to go back to what I said before. You can't tell the story of baseball without Pete Rose and without all those guys, Clemens and Bonds and McGuire and Sosa. You can't tell the story of baseball without them. And you're lying to yourself if you ever go visit Cooperstown and not see those guys in there and say that you saw the complete Hall of Fame. Sorry, you didn't.
Nope.
And that's how I feel about it. What steroids is that, you know, we're getting off subject from the Pete Rose, but it wrong. Absolutely. But like Dave said, it wasn't one guy doing it. I mean, my goodness, I bet you 50% of baseball was doing it. And we don't even know everybody that did it.
No.
But, so
I'm wondering how much if Pete wouldn't have got it. Pete was making calls from the dugout to his bookie. I mean, if he would have done it, if he would have done it before the game or after the game, wouldn't you think there would have been something a little different here? But when you get caught, that's supposedly what happened. So I mean, he'd go and leave the dugout and make a phone call. So I don't know. There's a lot of rumors
Yeah,
out there.
Okay, but the thing of it is, okay, so what Pete Rose did, I don't think affected the outcome of a season. You know, I don't even know that I could say that him betting affected the outcome of a game. I don't know that he would manage a game differently based on how much money he's bet on that game, especially if he never bet against his own team. You know, but the steroid issue definitely had an effect on the outcome of games and seasons and records and you know, how deep does that go? You know, and then, you know, we didn't really talk much about, you know, this whole stealing the signs thing, and, you know, did Altuve had a little buzzer on his shoulder, and, you know, don't yank at my shirt when I cross the plate, you know, kind of thing.
Yeah.
So I know, and that's a totally different one in itself. And again, just admit it. I can live with it, because you know what? That's part of stealing signs is part of baseball.
Sure.
Anybody that's ever stood on second base has tried to get the catcher's sign and tried to get it into that's baseball. It's all the unwritten rules of baseball is what makes baseball.
Mm-hmm.
But having some guy banging on a trash can or having electronic equipment attached to you, that's crossing the line to me.
Mm-hmm.
But again, you still got to hit the pitch. Probably helps, knows what it's coming. But admit it. Just admit it. And I'm fine with it, because guess what? There's too much stuff out there saying that you did it. So just admit it. You know?
Yeah, I'm still waiting.
I'll tell you what, this is the best thing that could have happened to Altuve and the Astros. They're not playing right now, because they would be getting every ballpark they were going to go into
Booed.
this year was going to be bad. In fact, Yankee fans were, because the Astros weren't supposed to come into New York, into Yankee Stadium until September, like second to last weekend of the year. The Yankee fans were organizing and were going to go take every empty seat when they went and played the Mets, so that they could be there for that. So
yeah,
the Astros were going to have a long season, and they're getting off right now.
I think weren't they getting plunked in this spring training games?
Yeah. Somebody, there was I don't know who it was, but it was there was a pitcher, I want to say in the Blue Jays or Royals organization, and he was one of the pitchers. There was proof that the trash can was humming that day, and he was questioning on the mound that he goes, boy, I felt like I had good stuff. He never pitched again in the majors. I think he's got a lawsuit saying, you're the reason I'm not in the majors because of that performance. Toronto got rid of me, or whoever it was.
Yeah, even as a coach on the sidelines, when I was coaching softball, baseball, whatever, when there was a kid that was going to steal and I knew the steal sign, I made sure my catcher knew it. So
that's a game.
Yeah, we all did it. I knew when they were going to bunt. I knew when they were going to steal, and I make some sort of effort to make sure that my catcher knew what was going on to notify everybody else.
Why do you think in the game of basketball, Pete, we don't want to keep hollering out the name of our play?
Right.
You want to come out of the timeout knowing, hey, I'm running this. I don't want to have to holler it from the bench. Well,
No.
Why not, Coach? Because we're playing varsity basketball. We've been scouted. They know what we're running if I holler that out. So that's why, a lot of coaches, I've got 3 different names for the same play, and try not to say it as much as we can.
Right.
So
yeah, a lot of coaches
that's
do
part of the game.
Yeah, a lot of coaches do college names, and it's still the same play. If you're doing a consistent Duke play, and you're saying Duke 3 quarters, and you say it in the 4th quarter, it's like, well, they know what's coming. So I totally understand. Yep. So I get it. But in closing,
I guess what I'm referencing.
Yep.
Go ahead.
No, go ahead, guys.
Well, I just was going to say in reference, it'd be like sitting there saying, okay, well, coaches, let's have a bond here that we won't scout each other so that we don't steal anybody's plays. I mean, that's the whole
Right.
that's the whole reason we go watch other teams' plays and try to
Sure.
figure out, hey, I think I know what they're running. So no different in baseball.
Nope.
Your goal is to, hey, we got to figure out what their steal sign is, or exactly right. Those are the unwritten rules. It's what makes sports sports.
Yep. All right, so I guess we're gonna, once you wrap this up, Pete, we're gonna send it off to Major League Baseball, and we should expect some action then.
Absolutely. I want the commissioner to contact us and ask us for our opinion. Absolutely.
Have you tried getting Pete on?
Pete Rose? No.
My guess is he's willing to talk.
He might be.
Especially I think we'll have to pay
the right amount.
Oh yeah, yeah. If I was a betting man,
Right.
he'd probably want a little pay for that interview. But
Now, my brother Russ has a Pete Rose story. Apparently, he was in a airport restroom, and he was aware of someone had walked up next to him. The guy code at the urinal. So he was aware of someone there, but he didn't look. And he came out, and apparently it was Pete Rose had gone into the same restroom as Russ was in.
I guess
Didn't
that's as
talk
close
to
as
him,
you
though.
probably want to get. Yeah, I know. Yeah.
Right.
That's your Pete Rose story.
That's his Pete Rose story.
Oh, okay.
All I know is when we
probably
were
keep that to
younger,
myself.
we always went to up before Olympic Stadium was in Montreal. I don't know what you guys did. We followed the Expos since I was born.
Mm-hmm.
We went up to Jerry Park, the old park up there, and Pete Rose came in one of the Cincinnati Reds and the Red Machine back then. They all came into town, and it was the Joe Morgan days, the Johnny Bench days, and blah, blah, blah. And we're there in awe. My cousin in Rochester, who Dave knows, has an autograph a program from that game. I wonder if he even has it. I've never even brought it up to him, but I'm thinking I will give him a call and find out if he even has it. But in a little switch later on, and a lot of people don't know this, that Pete Rose actually played one season for the Montreal Expos. A lot of people don't know that. So
not the full season, but he was there. You're right, Pete. He was there.
He played the '84 season. He didn't finish there. He finished with Cincinnati. They hired him as because he went to be a coach player for Cincinnati. Yeah. So,
but if I remember right, and I just saw this, I think Pete got his 4,000th hit, not the one that broke Cobb's record, but his 4,000th hit he got as an Expo at Olympic Stadium. Pretty sure. In that 1984 season.
April 13th, 1984.
Yep. Dave Van Horn on the call.
Yeah. Oh, the good old days.
Yeah.
So I'll let you.
There was nothing.
Go ahead, Dave. Joey, sorry.
There was nothing better than coming home from an Expo game and getting the post-game show with Dave Van Horn and Duke Snyder. Yep. It was Van Horn and Snyder back then. That was awesome.
You guys
can't see that.
What you got there, David?
Pete Rose in the Expos uniform.
Oh, I think I posted it somewhere online, but anyway. Closing statements for you guys. Joey, I'll let you go first.
Geez, closing statement. All right. Well, as it pertains to this show,
yeah.
Well, we're officially a show now, Pete, because I've always heard that talk shows, as soon as you've talked about the Pete Rose thing, you're officially a show. So that we're officially a show.
Okay.
But as far as Pete Rose goes, I understand why people don't think he should be in. I understand why I'm a mediator anyway. I understand it. I'm not going to get in an argument with you, but I feel that hey, he's paid his dues. He's finally come clean, and I'll always stick to the story. Can't tell the story of the Hall of Fame without Pete Rose. So, or the story of baseball without him. So he's a Hall of Famer. There isn't even any doubt about that. He should
David?
be in.
Yep, I'm in total agreement. Like I said, you know, when the lifetime ban first was handed down, I agreed with it, only because I'm kind of a guy that, you know, rules are meant to be followed most of the time. But you know, with the evidence that I spoke of earlier, with, you know, the different rules that have been broken and the punishments that have been handed down for them, I believe that a lifetime ban is not warranted for what he did, and he has served his time for what he did. And Pete Rose is a definite Hall of Famer.
All right. Everybody knows my stance. I pretty much said it when I first started this program. Pete Rose belongs in the Hall of Fame, period. The last time he put on a uniform was August 23rd, 1989. He served his time, folks. He belongs in the Hall of Fame. Thanks for watching tonight. For hosts Joey Realm and Dave Bartlett, this is Pete Goslaw. Signing off from Wise Guy Sports Talk Show. Everybody stay safe out there and have a good night.